All right, we're officially into the season. Huge West Coast matchups this week and lobster rolls from Red Hook Lobster Pound. Life is good.
It's simple. We love college football, we love ridiculous food, so let's pick some huge games against the spread every week and eat until it hurts. It's easy call.
You know, it's kind of a shame we're doing college football and seafood and there's no Florida State game, but such is life. Let's get into it. Michigan State on the road. Michigan State 13.5-point dogs at Autzen. The keys for Sparty: play well on the road. Keep that poise. It's a tough place to play. No offsides, no false starts. Got to be good. Number 2, that defensive front has to win battles in the trenches if they're going to stop that Oregon run game. And finally, Connor Cook. He needs to be good, not just fine. He needs to be very good, get first downs, keep the chains moving. That's going to be huge for Michigan State. Keys for the Ducks: the offensive line needs to show up. All sorts of talent in the backfield, maybe the best quarterback in the country, play beyond belief. Number 2, the defensive front for Oregon needs to be able to win battles against kind of a redone Michigan State offensive line, kind of beat up as well. And number 3, speed. They have more of it than anybody in the country. They can run by Michigan State, but Michigan State can also tackle Oregon. Take advantage of creases, take advantage of opportunities. The legs are all going to be there for Oregon, but Michigan State is quite sound on defense. Went back and forth with this game. Oregon could run away with it, obviously. Michigan State could ugly this up. When in doubt, I'm going to say take the points, because I really have no idea what to do with this game. I'm going to say 34-24, 34-27 Ducks at home, but when in doubt, also the main lobster roll from Red Hook Lobster Pound. I'm going to get into you soon. I'm going to make that thing disappear. USC Stanford, West Coast, really coming through this week. Keys for the Trojans: number 1, that offensive line. Huge test with Stanford's front, a front built to stop a spread-like team like USC is now. Number 2, coaching. How familiar will Sark be with his personnel against a really good team in a tight game? That's going to be huge. How does he use the youth? And number 3, that youth. Dory Jackson, Juju Smith, Damian Mama, Bryce Dixon, all these guys are going to be needed to be counted on. Tight, huge game. I think they come through pretty well. I'm not too worried, but it's going to be enormous. Keys for the Cardinal: number 1, their own youth. The line, relatively new on offense. They need to be able to open up holes for relatively inexperienced running backs. 2, X's and O's. How creative can Stanford be in a close game? That question matters, especially on offense. And finally, the defensive front for Stanford against an offensive line for USC that looked really good last week. Still kind of a question mark, and they're built again to stop a spread team. So I like Stanford close because they're at home. The spread's 3.5 points. I'm going to go Cardinal 27, USC 21. The coaching, the quarterback, that defense, it's all there for Stanford. And it's all right in front of me with the main lobster roll from Red Hook Lobster Pound. Oh my God. See, this one's chilled. You got the scallions on top, you got the paprika on top. Oh my God. Look at that meat. Oh. I'm gonna say this lobster was named Hank, and Hank is delicious. Here we go. Midwest Madness, Michigan, Notre Dame in South Bend. This is gonna be a fun one. Notre Dame, 5.5-point favorites at home. Keys for the Maize and Blue: number 1, coaching. This is Doug Nussmeier's first chance against a real team to show off that new Michigan offense. Should be relatively fun. 2nd, quarterback. Devin Gardner, get rid of the ball quickly. Don't hold on, no turnovers. All you have to be is pretty good against Notre Dame. And finally, the offensive line for Michigan, still a question. App State doesn't count. Can they be good against a pretty good Notre Dame front? Keys for Notre Dame: their defensive front. Annoy Michigan, annoy the offensive line, annoy Devin Gardner, force him into mistakes. Number 2, the running backs. Torian Folston, Greg Bryant, whoever it is, make work happen out of the backfield, get the ball out of Everett Golson's hands. And finally, X's and O's. How do you confuse Devin Gardner on defense, Notre Dame? Make sure he sees things that aren't there. Do everything you can to force mistakes, especially at home against a Michigan pretty high-powered offense. This matters. Another tough game. I'm going Michigan outright here. I think 27-24 feels right. It's going to be crazy. But give me the blue, not just to cover, but to win the game. And give me this sweet, sweet lobster mac and cheese. Full confession, I've been sort of anti-lobster mac and cheese. Mac and cheese is great, lobster is great. Why do too much? But I'm going to give Red Hook Lobster Pound an opportunity at my heart. Oh, look at that. Ooze factor high. That's a big... These aren't just lobster bits. These are lobster torsos and chunks. All right, here it is. Oh my, It's not too seafoody. The lobster plays a really good sidekick role to to everything in my life. Next, let's stay in the Midwest. The Buckeyes of Ohio State, 11.5-point favorites over the Virginia Tech Hokies. Keys for the Gobblers. Number 1, discipline. You need to be able to limit penalties. 10 last week against nobody in particular. Got to do better at Ohio State. Number 2, the offensive line. Experience, relative strength, and you can run at Ohio State a little bit. And 3rd, coaching. We've got Bud Foster against a relatively green quarterback. I like Tom Herman, the Ohio State offensive coordinator, but it's going to be a challenge. Keys for Ohio State. Actually, before we get into that, Jimmy, this Connecticut lobster roll has lobster that is poached in butter. I'm just going to keep that in front of me. Keys for Ohio State. Number 1, speed. They've got tons of it. Take advantage. Virginia Tech's defense, relatively new, especially outside, with the cornerbacks being pretty much new. Ezekiel Elliott, Dontre Wilson, Devin Smith, run around. Next, the secondary for Ohio State. Michael Brewer is a decent quarterback for Virginia Tech. Confuse him, jump into lanes, give JT Barrett an easier job. And 3rd, the quarterback position. JT Barrett, I'm a believer that he's going to take a jump. I think Ohio State as a whole is going to take a big jump between the Navy game and this game, coming home, figuring out the changes on both sides of the ball. I think Ohio State wins a game that starts ugly, but they pull away. Let's call it 34-17, 34-20, somewhere in there. And now I'm gonna get in this. So the last lobster roll, the main one, was a cold one. This is warm. It is buttery. It smells like butter everywhere in here. Oh my goodness. This one's gonna put me to sleep. The other one's more refreshing. This is more, I am a king, bring me my giant seafood.
Let the bass kick.
And the final game, huge revenge spot. BYU traveling to Texas. Longhorns 3.5-point favorites after being embarrassed by the Cougars last season. Keys for BYU. Number 1, discipline. 15 penalties against UConn last week. What? Stop it. Stop it, BYU. Next, that defensive front. The offensive line for Texas beat up, not all that good. Get to Tyrone Swoops, new starting quarterback, and they've got a good, experienced, old defensive front. And finally, the road. Not that DKR is that difficult a place to play, but those penalties, it can get a little bit loud. Just Paul, gotta be good on the road in a difficult second straight road game. Keys for, actually get this out of my way. I'm just gonna take a nap in the middle of the Texas keys. Keys for Texas is 3.5-point favorites. X's and O's. Get Tyrone Swoops in a position to succeed. Get him rolling out, get him throwing on the run. 2, the offensive line loses Dom Espinoza, the anchor to that line. You know, a very inexperienced line, talented. Open up holes for Jonathan Gray, Malcolm Brown, get the ball out of Swoop's hand quickly. And finally, the defensive front for the Horns. Please, I beg of you, wrap up Taysom Hill. Please, just do it. Just do it for me, do it for America. I'm taking Texas here. I like Vance Bedford, the defensive coordinator for Texas. I think they're going to be more than enthusiastic and more than ready to take down BYU. I like the coaching staff this year a lot better than last year. Texas by a touchdown, 27-20. As I'm joined by the sweet talk, ginger lemonade, time for seafood sandwich playoff. Number 1 seed, lobster roll, because of course. 2 seed, shrimp po' boy. What's up, New Orleans? 3, fish fillet. I'm not talking McDonald's, just a fried fish sandwich. And 4, some sort of crab sandwich. You could go soft shell crab sandwich. You could go with a crab cake sandwich. Number 1 against 4, obviously lobster roll is moving on. I like the shrimp po' boy as the 2 seed. I'm going chalk here. They're just too good. And then shrimp po' boy as the 2 against lobster roll as the 1. Both have their advantages. You have fried versus steamed or poached. I'm going lobster roll here. I'm pro remoulade. I'm on the record as being pro remoulade, but with that lobster roll, a little bit more refreshing, not as bready, not as much batter. Maybe I'm a homer because I'm in the Red Hook Lobster Pound, but lobster roll, the number 1 seafood sandwich. So those are the picks. Michigan State, Stanford, Michigan, Texas, and Ohio State. I feel a good week coming on. Feels right. Anyway, let us know what you agree with and disagree with in the comments. See you next week.